welcome to the Global Morning here on Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I'm Uya Mofwegwe. We're so delighted knowing that you're joining us to start your day. Of course, there's a reason it's called Breakfast Show. And the lady who has been missing in action, MIA, as they say, for 2 days of this week so far, is back on the show. Just a reminder that it's midweek. The corporate Joe Mai has brought her elegant self back on Global Morning. So good to see you.
It's great to see you, Uya, and it's great to be here, basically. And
of course.
I was in MIA for your information. But it's great to be here. Good morning, Uya, and good morning to each and every one of you out there. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. The weather is fantastic. I love it. And, you know, for me, it's either rain or when it's cold.
Right.
That's my best weather ever. But at the same time, people will beg to differ, like you, Uya.
I think it's pretty much my own weather. Incidentally, speaking of which, I hear it's raining. It's not part of Abuja already.
Yes, true that.
I mean, I would have thought that would start in March.
Yes.
But down south, it's been raining since Christmas.
Yes, it has.
But here, the dynamics are different, and NIMET continues to keep us, bring us up to speed as to what the weather is saying and how we should dress and prepare for our day, because the weather shouldn't be a reason we're not pushing the limits every other day. So let's look forward to more rains. We have barely even started.
Yes.
All right. So as I say in Australia, get your brolies.
Get your brolies.
Right.
And then at the same time, we should always, get abreast with what's happening when it has to do with climate change. So people might wonder and say, oh my goodness, why is it raining now?
Right.
It's all about climate change. You have to understand what is happening when it comes to weather, when it comes to the environment, green energy, and all of that in comparison. Very important that we stay abreast and understand what it means and how to understand it and how to navigate it. So we won't think that there's, people have ways of twisting and turning things, being very superficial when it comes to issues like that. But climate change is here and it has come to stay.
Of course, climate change is not about superstition, it's about science. And I think, speaking of science, there's one very hard nut to crack that some world leaders have come to grapple with in recent years, especially as they interact with someone like US President Donald Trump, who really has not bought into all of this climate change conversation.
No, he hasn't.
He doesn't throw his weight behind it. He believes it's just another, unnecessary hula baloo around the whole thing. But things ain't the same, as I say. Weather today, climate today is not the same as our parents, our forefathers knew it. It's not the same as when we were younger, for example. It was a little easier a couple of decades ago for you to predict seasons. Farmers knew when to plant, they knew when to do whatever with their agricultural cycle.
Yes, they did.
Today, a couple of things take farmers unawares, and the only thing we can do isn't to complain, it is to be prepared for this new normal as it is right now, because whether you like it or not, we must continue to talk about food security, for example, or if you like, call it food sufficiency. In the case of Nigeria, we've seen a couple of, all of those security measures being put in place. We talk about emergency kind of situation regarding this, but again, we're dealing with climate change, and you can also tell from how we're dealing with droughts across the world. Nigeria is not dealing with droughts, so we may not be able to practically relate. But you talk to people in Southern Africa, for instance, even somewhere in Central Africa. Of course, India is big on that table.
Yes, they are.
Then you realize that climate change is not laughing.
No, it's not. And I think the better for each and every one of us to understand that it has come to stay.
Right.
When you see earthquakes here and there, we don't even experience all of these things here and all of that, whether it's changing and, like you mentioned, drought. We're not really experiencing drought here. But at the same time, it has come to stay. And I think we have to understand it, we have to learn to embrace it and see as much as possible how we can navigate around it so it will not serve as a menace but as a beneficial outcome for each and every one of us. So I think we should understand and just have that balance when it comes to climate change and understand that climate change has come to stay, basically.
Right. I think that's pretty much what it should be. Climate change has come to stay. Governments, agencies, those in the civic space whose work essentially and thematically tailored around climate change. You also know this, and citizens too. We must find a way to narrow all of these down beyond language barriers.
Oh, true.
So people understand that there's nothing superstitious or spooky.
No spooky.
Right, about this. It is what it is now. Nature is playing itself out, and we must all find a way to be a step ahead of all of the consequences. All right. There's so much we need to talk about on the program today. We'll look at the informal sector, for example. What is it that we can say we are changing on that front, especially as it has to do with reforms being pursued under the Renewed Hope agenda. When you talk about the informal sector, you're talking about businesses and players within the economy, for example, who are not within the formal net. For instance, I mean, for the most part, they are not captured within the tax net, no pension arrangement for them. So it's almost as if they are, for want of better words, in the blind spots, as we say, regarding closed circuit television, as far as the business space is concerned. And that's why you realize that forward-looking governments make deliberate efforts consistently over time to ensure that the people, the business people, those whose work happens within the informal sector are incorporated into the formal sector. The goal is not just to ensure we collect their taxes, it is also to make sure that they benefit from the larger goods that government ought to deliver. The informal sector, for example, in most cases, there are also those who are unbanked, either they are underserved or they are unserved altogether. We'll look at all of those issues from the Nigerian standpoint and see what exactly we need to do going forward. We also have to take a look at the security situation in our country and how the U.S. dynamic, as I'd like to call it, is shaping that narrative at this point and as it stands right now going into the future. Let's take a break. We're back shortly to begin to unpack the program for you. Stay with us. In recent times, more than ever before, people keep talking about issues around costs of living. They compare city to city. In the case of Nigeria, for example, Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt rank tops on that list in terms of cost of living. But there's a particular element in the mix that gives people a lot of concern, and that is rent. I saw something yesterday talking about rent, how rent is eating deep into people's finances. I mean, households are overwhelmed.
Oh, yes.
Just paying rent alone. We're not talking about food. We're not talking about health. Transportation. These are essential. These are vital. These are crucial. You know, back in the day, I would hear grown-ups talk about how can you build your house? I mean, how could you have built your house 20 years ago and you're increasing rent as if you built it just a year ago and things like that. And the landlords too on their part
it's part of investment to you.
Right. It's business for me.
Exactly.
Besides, there are landlords who largely depend on their rent.
Oh, yes.
All right. I mean, to keep body and soul together.
Of course.
So whether they've changed their roofs in the last 10 years or not, whether they've repainted the house in the last 1 decade or not, they keep increasing rent. But again, you realize that the challenge with many people, especially those within the private sector, is that their salaries are not catching up with these increases. So it becomes overwhelming. Add to that the rural-urban migration. People are leaving the hinterlands, leaving the villages, the rural areas, want to come to the city. Everybody wants to experience the city life. And then you realize that the pressure continues to mount. And as such, you see rent just skyrocketing, bursting right through the roof.
Yes, and of course, one of the impact that this has is the ongoing road construction. You know, once you construct that road, that easy access, of course, rent will also skyrocket at the same time. And well, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, but hey, listen, this is someone that has taken out time to build his house, and like you said, people actually put in all their best, or every other thing that has to do with income, finances, on that rent that in which you pay. But at the same time, like I always say, if you're going to increase your rent, give me value for money. Is the house in shape? Is there water? Is the drainage system, is it working, or is it dilapidated and you expect me to move in there and yet you're increasing your rent and all of that? There should be a balance in know if you're going to do that. But at the same time, well, life happens.
It does.
And it's just unfortunate, but that is what it is. And that's why in Lagos State, you mustn't collect 3 years. You know, back in the day, it was either 3 years upfront you pay for rent.
Minimum
now,
2 years.
Minimum 2 years. But
Right.
now it's a year and you're done. If you receive much more than that, you can go to court. And it's unfortunate, but that is what it is.
You know, I think about that, and I'm wondering, well, how do we really, if you like, resolve all of this? I've heard that at some point again in Lagos, that a piece of legislature was being proposed, like a bill, to say, look, if Juma is a landlady, right, she can't collect more than 1 month. So if he comes to rent her property, he pays for 1 month, especially for residential areas, residential property. All right. I don't know if that has seen the light of day. I'm not sure. In fact, I think the prospects are very slim for that sort of bill because the dynamics are not very straightforward. All right.
No,
there is that. And then you are now asking yourself, why do we have this radical rural-urban migration? I spoke with a professor in 2017, and he told me on live television that, look, one of the things government ought to have done, which it has either not done at all or never done, at least in several decades, is that you are supposed to go to those villages where you have farmers, where you have fishermen, where you have people who practice their crafts. In those villages, there must be lights. Like you mentioned, there must be access roads.
Very important.
There must be schools. There must be functional, robust, vibrant health facilities. If you have all of those, you are going to have people who will be living on their farms because you have a situation where people can own houses on their farms. I mean, look, sometimes I try to resist the temptation of referencing the US, but if we can borrow democracy from there, maybe we can borrow a few other good things from there as well. You see 4 generations that have lived on a farm. 4 generations. Your great-grandfather was there. Your grandfather was there. Your father was there. Now you, your wife and your children, you're there. So the 4th generation, just like you have companies that have seen 4 or 5 generations. So you have the 4th generation on that farm. Everybody has gone to school, first degree, second degree. They're back to the farm. It is structured, it is systematic, and it is transgenerational.
Yes, it is.
So when you look at that sort of system, you realize that one of the several key ingredients missing is long-term thinking. I'll give you an example. So if we're to say, let's say somewhere in Gwagwalada, down Gwagwalada, if you live in that area, you're not likely going to feel that sense of prestige compared to somebody who lives maybe somewhere in the city center, right? Maybe Maizama or somewhere around Asokoro or something. But here's the thing. What if that person had access roads end to end? What if that person had uninterrupted power supply? What if that person had a decent accommodation? That person had access to school for their children, health, functioning, and things like that. Would they really be incentivized to want to come to the city just because Juma lives in the city?
No.
I'm not so sure of that. So when we complain about rural-urban migration, which is the real reason we see these skyrocketing rents across our cities,
very true.
we must realize that we shouldn't stop at complaining. We must ask ourselves, what should government have been doing already by now? Because whether you like it or not, Juma, on a final note, you realize that it is even private entities that are driving housing. Whether government is driving the policy, I'm not so sure. But even those houses we say we have built the last 10 years or 12 years up till now, the question is how many people, including civil servants, whose jobs are secured, salaries are guaranteed, can afford those houses.
That's very true. In fact, that's food for thought. And I think we have to look back and take a look, sit down and take a look and see to ourselves, what has government been doing all these while? If you look at these rural areas, you see that there's a lot that needs to be done when it comes to like you said, good healthcare, school, and all. If we had good access, I don't think anyone will bother themselves in coming into, urban to rural areas. No one will actually bother themselves when it comes to these issues. And I think a lot needs to be done. And for housing, yes, it's private sectors that actually go neck into. That's why we see real estate companies everywhere, building houses, giving you that sense of belonging that you can actually own a home, even when you pay instrumental for it. It's just unfortunate that this is what it is. A lot needs to be done. We need to sit down, go back to a drawing board. A lot needs to be done. And with all of that said, I think it will douse the tension of the skyrocketing when it comes to rent and all of that encompass. People scrambling to come to the city because of course, as you can see, there's so much life when it comes to the city. There's so much renovations. There are so many facilities that everyone wants to be part and parcel with. But it is what it is. I think a lot needs to be done when it comes to the rule, and just balancing both together. It's very important.
We need a balance, no doubt about that. But let's also mention something that happened yesterday, talking about change in leadership at the top echelon of the Nigeria Police. The Inspector General of Police talking about Kayode Egbetokun, we understand has now resigned, and almost immediately President Tinubu has found a replacement in the person of the AIG Tunji Disu. We understand that replacement takes immediate effect. Even though we understand that, that is in acting capacity pending confirmation. So there's no lacuna, as they say in law, in leadership at that level. But here's the thing: we hope that this new police leadership coming on stream will continue to sustain whatever the police force has accomplished the last couple of years, and even do far better. Our Nigerian policing system has had question marks over it for a while. We hope that changes with time. I've spoken with security experts about Boko Haram, about insecurity generally, and they say that if we had been proactive enough, Boko Haram, banditry, kidnapping, what have you, couldn't have gotten or shouldn't have gotten to a point where it was even the military that intervened. That it should have been the policing system in our country.
Really?
Yes, that should, because nothing just blows up overnight. It started gradually.
Yes, it does.
So at that level, police has strong intel background and stuff, so they could have also, been able to, as it were, tackle that early enough. The reason it's this big now is on account of the fact that it has festered over time. We're looking at something that started at least essentially in 2009.
Yes.
So 16, 17 years down the line, it just continued to burgeon, as I say, and today this is exactly what we're dealing with. But again, it also now sparks the conversation again about state policing, which President Tinubu just 2 days ago has reassured that he would ensure happens, at least as part of the legacy he will be leaving behind when he eventually leaves office. Before now, we saw the National Economic Council sort of have this dialogue around state policing. State governors were asked to submit their proposals. We have seen those who have kicked against it because they say, Ujuma is a governor and she has state police. She's going to abuse it. She's going to exploit the whole system. Others are saying, are the governors not already exploiting the traditional police? The Nigeria police as we know it. So why don't we do something like a scale? Ask ourselves, what are the disadvantages? What are the advantages? Or as they say, what are the pros and the cons of it? So if we have local police, they argue, it will be easier for you to identify crimes, hotspots before things begin to really jump off and things like that. But we know once the president says, he resolves to achieve something, he goes for it. So hopefully all of the resources and the kind of thinking required to make it happen will also be brought to bear. But Nigeria appears to need state police.
Yes, we do. Because for us to create that balance, we really, really do. Because I think they're the first point of call before any other thing. It's very important. I think it should. I hope it sees the light of day. And at the same time, we desperately do need state policing. It will come a long way. At least it will curb a little bit of. It might not evacuate crime completely, but at least it will actually curb it or nip it in the bud in some sort of way. So it's important.
Yes, it is important. All right, so this is where we want to bring you some inspirational this morning, and here is Ramsey Enoch Agbo.
So many thanks for joining us once again on Heart to Heart Inspirational. We just want to inspire you, encourage you. And of course, my name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Now, do you know that there is this belief that everyone feels that they are behind? You ask a lot of people, and some people even tell their colleagues, their neighbors, their friends, their family members that they are behind. But let me tell you something right here. I want to start by correcting that lie that many of us have believed for too long. It's been a long time that a lot of people believe this lie. I want to say it is a lie, okay? It depends on what I want to say now. when someone say, I'm late, I'm late. And a lot of people have crashed out of destiny. A lot of people have mixed it in life because they feel I'm late. Hey, she's married, I'm not married. Oh my God, she's rich, I'm not rich. Oh, she's gotten admission, but look at me right here. But nobody is saying, oh, she's dead. Why am I not dead? Has anybody said that? Nobody is saying, oh, some of my mates are mad. Why am I not mad? I should. They don't tell themselves that they should be mad also because somebody is in their category or at their age level is mad or maybe probably late or dead. Why are you not saying, all right, you should be dead or you should be mad? The same way you're thinking that, oh, you should be rich because the other person is rich and you are of the same age grade or classmate or something or neighbor or whatever. That's the reason I said it's a lie. When you are being forced to believe that you are late. And a lot of people, because they feel they are late now, they do nothing anymore because that is their mindset. Because that's what they believe. But then I should further let you know this. Others ahead of you doesn't mean that you are late because you are also ahead of someone. That's it. But hear me clearly today that you are not behind. All right. We live in a world obsessed with a lot of comparison. Social media shows us edited victories. A lot of victories you see, a lot of successes you see on social media are edited victories. All right. In the real sense of it, you meet some of these people one-on-one, you will be shocked. Hey, come on. Is that the person I see on social media? It is edited victories. All right. There are a lot of people that are living with struggles, but they come on social media and they paint everything like they don't have any issue. You see some families not doing well, some husband and wife not doing well, then you see them on social media, it will appear as if they are the best couple in the world. I'm not saying you should show, all right, the ugly situations you're facing in your family. It's not everything you bring on social media. I'm aware of that. But then you don't need to pattern your life based on what you see on social media. All right. That has made a lot of people get into some acts that they are not supposed to get into. If you see some people's resolution for 2026, you would be shocked. A lot of people want to be successful because they feel they are late. Someone just told me, today that, well, he traveled and you see a lot of people, just little boys who have involved themselves in one or two things, driving big cars, and the people who are doing genuine and legitimate things don't even have that kind of car. That's a wrong comparison, if you ask me, though the person didn't fall for what they were driving. He didn't fall for it. And he was sharing with me today. But we need to know that there are so many things that have happened behind the scene with someone else's highlight reel and conclude would fail. But life is not a race. Life is a journey with different routes, all right, different terrains and different timings. So if it is not your route, if it is not your terrain, if it's not your timing and you want to force it, you may miss it, you may crash. If you go up too early, you may crash very early. A lot of people have faced that in the past. Some people are blown early and some fade early too, and others are slow-born successes. Some start strong and crash, others struggle quietly and rise suddenly. Timing is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of design. That time you're taking your time, it's as if you are in the workshop. Very soon you come to the showroom and people will be wondering, where has he been? He was in the showroom having wilderness experience, putting himself together, refining himself, designing himself so that he can come out successful. You know, there are times that you need to be alone, sit alone, think positively and know what to do per time. You don't run after people. people's successes shouldn't derail you, shouldn't make you miss what you are supposed to do. Because as a matter of fact, what looks like delay is often development process. What feels like waiting is often preparation. And you are being equipped emotionally, mentally, and spiritually and strategically for what you are about to handle. So nobody should tell you that you are late, that you're not married yet, doesn't mean you're not going to get married. That you're not rich yet doesn't mean you're not going to get rich. It's all about times and season. Except if you're not positioned well. For every proper possessioning, there would always be a proper possessioning. If you position well, you possess well. If you arrive early without capacity, without success, you will be destroyed. Because you can only, let me tell you something, you can get to the top, but what keeps you at the top is your character. All right? If you don't have character and charisma, one day you would be displaced from the top. So you need to prepare yourself very well for every success that you're thinking of in your heart. If it is in your heart, it will get into your head and one day it will enter your hand. But if you get it fast without wisdom, you would lose it faster. Okay, let me just give this illustration. Think of an aircraft, for instance, before takeoff. It accelerates on the runway for a very long time before it gets off the track and fly and leave the ground. If it doesn't maintain that timing on the runway for that number of time, it can never accelerate. So that period that you are time is the preparation period for your takeoff. So don't allow anyone discourage you or tell you that you are late, you are behind or whatever. To the untrained eye, it looks like delay, but without the runway, the plane cannot lift. Some of you are still on the runway, but lift is coming. Lift is coming. You will be lifted. So what do you have to do? Okay, stop comparing yourself. The comparing chapter, you should close it. And stop apologizing for your pace. You don't owe anybody any apology for your pace, because it's only you that know what you are cooking. Start now as we speak, trusting your process, because any process you don't trust cannot work for you. Like I tell people, you don't sit under an imam that you don't believe in. You don't sit under a pastor that you don't believe in. All right? Because whatever, if the pastor is pronouncing blessing and you don't believe in that pastor, it is a cause for you. The same thing for the imam too. All right? So whatever process you don't believe in, any system you don't believe in, you don't have any business, all right, staying under that system. Delay, like they say, is not denial. And it is preparation in disguise. So you are not behind and you are not being aligned, and when your time comes, you won't just arrive, but you will be ready. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and remember that you are a success going somewhere to happen. Don't allow anyone talk you down. Don't allow anyone tell you that you are late. Your time is coming, and that's the best time for you. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye for now.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's Global Morning on Global Television. Hope you were inspired with inspirational with Heart to Heart with Ramsey Enoch Agbo. And then about this time is the newspaper review segment. And we're going to start with the first paper of the day. It's the Nigerian Tribune. And above the nameplate on page 2, it says FG reaffirms stand on religious freedom as U.S. panel recommends repeal of Sharia blasphemy laws in Nigeria. And next, of course, we have a picture of the CBN governor, and it says CBN's interest rate cut signals credit expansion, economic growth, and that's from experts on page 5. And it says here NPR reduced by 50 basic points to 26.5%. And the next writer says 20 banks ready for recapitalization meet new minimum capital requirement, and that's from the CBN governor. Now below the nameplate, the Star story reads, Egbetokun resigns, Tunji Disu is acting IGP. 8 DIGs may go, and that's on page 3. And of course, that's the picture of the Acting Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu. And of course, the profile of the acting IGP, I'll quickly go through it now so we can be abreast on the acting IGP. He was born 13th April 1966, BA MA degrees from LASU, head of SARS in Ondo, Oyo State from 2011 to 2014. He was the Commander Rapid Response Squad, RRS Lagos from 2015 to 2021. DSP Head Intelligence and, of course, Response Team from 2021 to 2023. Commander of Police River State from 2023 to 2024. FCT Police Command 2024 to 2025. AIG Special Protection Unit Force Headquarters 2025 to 2026. AIG FCID Alagbon in 2026. He is a 3rd Dan Black Belter in Judo. Won gold medal at International Sports Festival in Bauchi 1990. Won gold medal at the first Veteran Championship of Nigerian Police in 2021. He won silver medal at the 33rd U.S. Open Judo Championship in 2022. So the acting Inspector General of Police is not playing at all. He has lots and lots of qualifications.
He does.
And then, of course, on page 4, it says FG files fresh charges against Ozokeme. And on page 14, it says Bayelsa Assembly clears Diri's Chief of Staff as Deputy Governor. And on page 28, it says fire destroyed Nimnet equipment as MMIA terminal, Keyamo. And below all of that, it says here, health cure of type 1 diabetes in mice developed report. Okay, that's on page 27. Suspected thugs attack Edo ADC Secretariat, Odigwe Oyegun's residence minutes after Akpata's defection. That's on page 10. And the writer says, APC National Chairman links attack to threat on Obi. Edo APC dismisses involvement. And on page 2, it says Erufai asks court to quash DSS charges against him. Atiku warns over his ill health, while we are yet to charge him to court. And that's from EFCC. And that's all in the Nigerian Tribune. And next we have the blueprint. Over to you now, Ui.
All right, from the top of it, just above the nameplates, phone tapping charge. Erufai DSS sues for 2 billion naira damages. Top left, no ransom paid for release of Niger school children. That is credited to Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris. What's more, sports diaspora athletes to compete at international or intermediate games. Those details are on page 32. And then left corner of the paper, U.S. House Committee's report on Nigeria catalyst for broader cooperation, according to the federal government. And then the Star headline, oil price shocks pre-election spending may threaten $50.45 billion foreign reserves. That's the CBN there talking with two riders. Cuts interest rate to 26.5%. Apex Bank cautious, direction now more supportive. for businesses. That's according to experts. AIG Tunji Disu steps in as IGP Egbetokun quits. Writer tells us ex-police boss resigned voluntarily, not sacked. Presidency clearing the air there. London property, AGF files fresh charges against Ozehome. On page 7 is where you find those details. We are reconstructing burnt MMIA Terminal 1, Kayamo. APC leaders, governors recommit to renewed hope agenda on page 15. Falsified unregistered batches of Dustinex in circulation, NAVDAC warns on page 15. If you miss anything, please don't miss this particular headline. Falsified unregistered batches of Dustinex in circulation, NAVDAC warns. Okay, those are your headlines from the Blueprint newspaper today, and Jomai will walk us through headlines from The Nation.
All right, now the Nation newspaper, above the nameplate, it reads, Egbetokun out, Disu steps in as IG. And then the writer says why he quit, and that's on page 6. If you're wondering why he quit, well, you have to go get yourself a copy of the Nation newspaper. And then on page 3, it says federal government's U.S. House panels report catalyst for more cooperation. And on page 4, it says government files new charges against Ozehome Hussaini family, and that's on page 4. And on page 8, it says ADC Secretariat Odigwe Oyegun's house attacked in Benin, and that's on page 2. Now below the nameplate, it says here, Nigeria to begin export of new Virent crude. And it says that on page 7, it says REA Bank strike 100 billion naira energy deal. That's on page 3. And it says bank raised 4.05 trillion naira in recapitalization drive. And we have 2 riders there, 20 meets requirements, 13 others on course. NPC cuts interest rate to 23.5%. And the star story on The Nation says, President to team take our scorecard to grassroots. And the writer says, renewed hope ambassadors get marching order to explain government's achievement. And at the foot of The Nation, it says, MMIA Lagos Fire Airlines relocates to temporary terminal, and that's on page 4. And basically, that's it on The Nation. Next, we have The Vanguard.
All right, top right corner of The Vanguard, the man of the moment, talking about Disu, the acting IGP. President accepts Egbetokun's resignation as IGP, appoints Tunji Disu in acting capacity. Tinubu to opposition, elections not won on social media. You can read it up on page 8. Phone tapping charge. DSS can't try me over casual remarks on TV. El-Rufai tells court 62 billion naira damages. How we escaped assassination in Benin, Obi Oyegun, on page 7. There you find a picture there of the former national chairman of the APC and now chieftain of the ADC, Dr. John Odige Oyegu, as well as the former presidential candidate of Labour, talking about Peter Obi. Right. U.S. Congress recommends measures to end Christian persecution in Nigeria. More than a handful of riders with that headline. Calls for legal reforms, improved policing, strengthening of criminal justice sector, seeks repeal of Sharia blasphemy laws, demands programs to allow self-defense for farmers, wants audit reports of effectiveness of AIDS support in Nigeria, seeks Nigeria's divestment from Russian military measures to counter Chinese influence. U.S. pressure on Sharia can cause tension in Nigeria. That's according to the Christian Association of Nigeria. No policy on religious persecution. Federal government replies U.S. Congress. Okay, those basically are the headlines. We hope you do take our time to read up details from the Vanguard newspaper today as we turn out to The Guardian.
All right, now The Guardian newspaper, below the nameplate, it says INEC dismisses claims of result manipulation in FCT polls. And that's on page 3. On page 15, it says more businesses go digital as NGC's new 15,216 entries. And of course, that's on the business page of The Guardian. And on page 3, it says Pegasus falls inflation yardstick, insists on worsening poverty. And the Star story reads on page 6, U.S. Let's quickly go on a very quick break. We apologize, and we're back on Global Morning, the newspaper review segment, and it's still the Guardian newspaper. And of course, the Star story reads, U.S. escalates pressure on Nigeria as AFRICOM firms up hub in Ghana. And of course, besides that, it says ADC Accord, others know. The registration faith March 24th. FG drags to ECOWAS court over tax law alterations, and that's on page 5. And below all of that, it says armed thugs attack Obi Oyegun, ADC members in Edo, and that's on page 29. On page 5, it says Dangote refinery to supply 65 million liters of PMS daily. This steps in as 23rd IGP rejuvenates tenure, controversy, mass exit of senior officers, and that's on page 6. And below all of that, it says here CBN rules out extending recapitalization deadline, lowers interest rates by 0.5%. And basically, that is it on the Guardian newspaper. Next, we have the Daily Courier. Over to you, Uyi.
Bayelsa Assembly confirms Peter Akwe as Deputy Governor on the Daily Courier. Very top of the list of headlines. Nigeria's external reserves surge to $50.45 billion, a 13-year peak amid rate cuts. The two writers say reserves bolster import cover to nearly 10 months. MPC eases policy as inflation trends downwards, cuts interest rates to 26.50. PDP slams federal government over alleged ransom payments to kidnappers. Then we have a few other headlines here. DIGs face compulsory retirement as junior officer Tunji Disu emerges acting IGP. A federal government describes U.S. Congress report on Christian persecution as catalysts for enhanced bilateral cooperation. Atiku condemns attack on Peter Obi ADC leaders in Benin as unacceptable violence. Those details are on page 8. ECOWAS decries poor enforcement of free movement protocol. UCL playoff. Atletico outlast Club Brugge 4-1 to reach round of 16. So much for headlines from the Daily Courier this morning. Next port of call is the Punch newspaper.
All right, the Punch newspaper, above the nameplate, it says oil revenue shakeup, states back Tinubu's executive order, and that read you will find on page 23. On page 14, it says Diri's COS declared as Bayelsa's deputy governor. And on page 21, it says recapitalization, banks raise 4 trillion naira ahead of March deadline. And beside the nameplate, it says FG slammed as medical tourism hits $550 million annually. And that's on page 21. And the Star story reads, Tinubu picks DISU for pre-2027 security boost, DIGs to retire. And of course, the rider there says IGP Egbetokun summoned to Villa resigns over family issues. The next rider says DISU era begins as MBA 19 DIGs, AIGs face retirement. And the next rider reads says 2027 polls in sight as new IG leads Tinubu's new anti-banditry war. And below that it says renewed hope summit, Tinubu wades into SGF Alia power tussle. And at the foot of the punch, it says 395 million naira for e-transmission out of INEC's 873 billion naira budget. And that's on page 14. And then on page 4 and 6, it says Ogun women takes own life after broken engagement. Very sad read there. And on page 22, it says MPC's modest rate cut sends positive signals, and that's from the OPS. Basically, those are all the headlines making rounds in the Punch newspaper. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with issues making rounds. And the next paper is a New Telegraph. Over to you, Reed.
All right, first here says recapitalization of foreign investors inject 1.15 trillion naira into Nigeria banks. Riders say as 20 lenders meet CBN's threshold, raise 4.05 trillion naira. MPC cuts lending rates. Foreign reserves hits $54.4 billion, 13-year high. Freights forwarding. Nigeria loses 3 trillion naira market share to foreigners. All right, so one with a picture of Peter Obi. It says gunmen attack Obi Oyegun, ADC chiefs in Edo. Olumide Agbata dumps Labour Party for ADC. Rivers, we've made significant strides in health, says Fubara. Congratulates winners of Rivers by-election. Executive order directs attack on PIA, threatens oil industry stability, according to Pengerson. Well, the federal government has responded to that, saying that the Constitution is the ground norm, not any other extant law or piece of legislation like the Petroleum Industry Act. A silent genocide. Cuba accuses U.S. of economic asphyxiation, seeks stronger Nigerian AU backing. Quite interesting. What's more, DIG's senior AIGs to go as Tinubu accepts Egbetokun's resignation, names Tunji Disu acting IGP. And then right corner of the paper, still the New Telegraph this morning, says APC leaders, governors recommit to advancing Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. And the writer tells us we are shifting from stabilization to acceleration in 2026. That's according to Vice President Kashim Shettima. Wike stands expelled, can't speak for PDP. Bode George urges Tinubu to caution Minister. That's about the opt-in time. That call for cautioning has been raised. All right. St. Mary's pupils release. We paid no money, federal government says, as report alleges hostages ransomed for 2 billion naira. Federal government's encouraging criminality, hypocritical on ransom payments. That's according to the PDP and ADC. Details are on pages 2 and 27. Just a few more to go. U.S. Congressman presents report on alleged prosecution in Nigeria. Terrorism in Nigeria, not religious. Federal government. Nigeria's insecurity, a public safety crisis, not terrorism. That's according to Ishola Williams. We need inward transformation, says Kumui. Read up details on pages 5, 6, and 27. And lastly, my favorites on the foots of the front page. Effects of head injuries can linger even years later. That's according to experts, right? Let's go take a look at our last paper this morning, and that will be the Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, now the Daily Trust newspaper, and here it says on page 24, Erifai asks court to quash DSS charges. And on page 10, it says Obi Oyegun, other ADC chieftains attacked in Edo. And on page 19, it says executive order may stall Lake Chad Kalmani project, pardon me. And the Star story reads, U.S. push to scrap Sharia sparks outrage. And basically 29 DIGs, AIGs may go as Tinubu replaces Egbetokun. And the writer reads, London property, FG files fresh charges against Osoheme, others. Experts X-ray interest rates cuts to 26.65%, and that's on page 21. And on page 26 says, Bayelsa, governor picks chief of staff as deputy. Basically, those are all the major headlines on the Daily Trust. And this brings us to the end of the newspaper review segment. And remember, Global Television has no impute in any editorial judgment whatsoever. It is read just how it's published. And of course, go out and get yourself a copy or copies of the dailies to be well abreast with issues making rounds. Up next is Social Buzz with Ogochukwu Mobono. Stay tuned.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
when social media speaks, we'll listen and we'll bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, and the tea everyone sips. Join the conversation.
Share your thoughts and get the examples of what's shaking the internet.
Hidden issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk. Only on Global Television.
Nigerians, and good morning viewers around the world. It's time to look at buzzing issues making rounds on social media, and today we're looking at something a crucial topic making rounds on social media at the moment, and that's hoodlums attack Peter Obi alongside other ADC chieftain in Edo State. Presidential aspirant Peter Obi and ADC chieftain attacked by gun-wielding hoodlums during a visit to former governor of Edo State, John Oyegun. A video circulating online shows the aftermath with vehicles and the estate gate riddled with bullets. Peter Obi, who spoke in the video, said the attack took place shortly after they departed the ADC headquarters in the state. Well, let's take a look at that short clip.
Former governor of the state, and you can see what happened in front of his house, where hoodlums came shooting. You can look at his gate and everything.
Let's see the bullet holes there.
I see the bullet marks at his gate. You see the several cars damaged and everything. That is where our democracy has reached.
The hoodlums came for you to know what 2027 will look like. Immediately after we left the ADC headquarters in Benin, we came into the house of Chief Oyegun, the former governor, and these hoodlums came, started shooting. These are bullets, started shooting. These are bullets, started shooting, destroying vehicles. You see, they know Tinubu is going to lose in 2027, and they don't want peace.
Everybody magazine me. The other guy carry key. Only that he wants to turn the magazine come for us.
And the secretariat there, yeah, they shot somebody. They blast the guy head here, blast him at the back. They beat him merciless. Yes, they shot one man in the neck, down hospital. This thing is getting, we cannot sincerely continue like this.
Who are the people doing this?
It's the ABC talks. We know they have a history of violence.
Make a formal complaint, and I'll show you this cannot continue at all. We have a country, and we are a part of the country. You know, we cannot have terrorism terrorizing the country and have officials of the government terrorizing citizens. It's not acceptable.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Big man. This is bullets. This is bullets. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They ran away when the DSS started retaliating. They now heard the sound of a different gun and they ran away. The information reaching us heard it that immediately we left the secretariat, ADC secretariat, they came in shooting. They shot people, wounded some people, Those the wounded are now at the hospital. This is Bullet live. This is Bullet. They came here to light people.
Yes, sir.
Had they been, we didn't lock this gate. They will light everybody. All the plan is to light people. That was their plan. Yeah, it's to light people now. They want to light people. Now you get the car. You see?
The video we have seen so far, and I must tell you that that's a deadly attack there on the ADC chieftain alongside with Peter Obi. But we have so much to talk about today. But let's take some comments from social media as regards this. And the first comment we're taking is coming from Lucky Nero, and Lucky Nero says, "There's nobody known to me that supporting this government that I will ever have anything to do with, whether now or in the future. If we're by chance working in the same organization, it's gonna be strictly on a professional level, because who you follow tells more of your hidden character." All right, thank you so much, Nero, for your contribution. And the next comment is coming from Prince Mwatana Yoeze1, and that Prince says, "Policy shouldn't be taken this far. It's a contest, not war." Thank you, Prince, for your contribution again. And the third, which is the last but not the least comment for this topic, is coming from JF1122. And JF says, "The governor once said he can't guarantee the safety of Peter Obi whenever he visits Edo State. And some people fail to know that violence can't be monopolized." Thank you so much, Jeff, and every other person who has dropped their contribution to today's topic via social media. And yes, I'm not alone today in the studio. I have with me Uyi Agbomofuegbe. Good morning, Uyi.
Good morning. As always, it's a delight to see you.
Yes, it is going to be a delight because we're talking about your state here, Uyi.
Oh, what can I say?
So, immediately this happened, and I saw this story yesterday, towards the evening hours of yesterday. Immediately, what came to my mind was the statement made by Monday Okpewolo some time ago, when he said that whenever Peter Obi is coming into the state, he should make sure that he informs him earlier enough before coming into the state, because he cannot guarantee his safety. Now, there are questions on the street. There are people saying, okay, could this be related to that statement? These are many more we are asking today. So what do you think, Uyi?
All right. I don't know if we should be in a hurry to tie these incidents to that remark credited to Edo State Governor Monday Okpewolo some time ago. But let's just be clear from the very start that we know politicians will be politicians, whether they are president, governors, or lawmakers. But beyond that, we must realize that security in this particular instance rests with the governor within that jurisdiction or that state in particular. So when the governor said he couldn't guarantee the safety or the security of Peter Obi, that was reckless for a state's chief executive. All right. First of all, Peter Obi is a Nigerian, so he should be free to go anywhere in the country, all right? Nobody should be able to stop that, just like for every other citizen. And if Peter Obi or any other person visits those states, the governor has a responsibility. It is statutory, it's not optional, to provide security. He's not God, of course, but we must establish that he has that responsibility. Again, like I said, it's statutory. That's not even to be disputed. Plus, I mean, if you add to that the fact that the person in question had also been a governor like yourself, all right? So if Peter Obi had made that sort of comments during the time he was in the saddle in Anambra, we also would say he was reckless of his state's chief executive. But let's come back to the incident of less than 24 hours ago in Benin City. It was very political, the gathering there. We understand Barrister Olumide Akpata, former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, who also was the flag bearer of Labour Party in the election of September 2024 in Edo State, was decamping from the Labour Party, or defecting as they say now, to the ADC. And this meeting was holding in the house of no less a person than someone who had also been a governor in the state back in the 90s, later becoming the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, and today chieftain of the ADC, Dr. John Odige Oyegu. I know that house, I know that area very well. I mean, I know it like the back of my hand. It's a serene place. What you normally see there would be vehicles just using that road. You hardly would even see pedestrians around there. So it's not a rowdy area. It's in the GRA, right? walking distance from the government house, stone's throw from NUJ Press Center in Benin City. So it's quite a serene environment and all that. It's not a rowdy area. So the people who carried out these dastardly acts, they knew what they were doing. It was not random. It was not impulsive. All right, but it's embarrassing. Like somebody mentioned in the background, I don't know if it was part of the commentary, it says it's a pointer to what 2027 would look like. And I'm afraid I just have to say, God forbid. It looks crazy already. So if 2027 was to be added, or if we were to extend this into 2027, to say the least, it's just going to be worse. But you see, politicians must be held to account. Until we do that, Ogochukwu, we are going to be looking at such stories here and again on social boards, and we are not in a good place at this point.
It's so bad because we are not even, he's not even campaigning. Yes, this is not a campaign. Like you said, this is someone defecting to another party.
An intra-party affair.
You understand? So if he was to be campaigning, I would say, okay, maybe the opposition party wasn't cool with the campaign and all of that. But this is just like a closed door meeting. Just let's do our gathering, you defect, then we go. Why the violence? And of course, if the governor of the state keep making statements that is not making sense to the people, because of course you don't just talk anyhow. I was listening to the radio this morning and someone said, I don't know why I'm from Edo State, but I don't know why the governor keep coming out to disgrace us in Edo State, because sometimes he doesn't make statement like a governor. I think the governor should watch the kind of statement he makes, because right now a lot of persons are hanging on to that statement he made some months back, saying that
trying to tie both.
Yes, trying to tie both together. Everyone is trying to be very careful at this point. So please, I think we have to beg your governor at this point. So please try to make statements.
We also establish something. The APC is the ruling party apparently in the state. So there are people who are speculating that the APC must be responsible for this. But just to also put all of the facts in front of our viewers, the ADC in itself in Edo State has had issues in recent times in terms of who leads the party in the state. For example, John Odigie Oyegu had been a governor. He had been a national chairman of the APC, even when he was the ruling party already at that time, under late President Muhammadu Buhari. So he has a robust CV, politically and otherwise. However, there's another gentleman in the state who had been in politics for a very long time. At one point, he was the majority whip of the Senate, talking about Senator Roland Stephen Owie. We understand there's some sort of tussle between Senator Owie and Dr. Oyegu as to who leads the ADC in the state. So there are people who believe that this is something internal, just like there are those who think it must be the APC trying to destabilize the ADC ahead of 2027. So we just
for now, let's leave it at that. It could be internal and it could be the opposition party, of course. All right, thank you so much, Uyi, for your contribution to today's topic. I must say that it was enlightening, and of course to you, our listeners and viewers, I hope that you've taken a clue, one or two clues, of course, from this topic, and you drop your comment there using the social media handles you have right there on your screen. And this is where we close the curtains for today for Social Buzz here on Global Morning. I'll be leaving you in the hands of Uyi and also Jumai to usher us into the discussion section of Global Morning. So stay with us. Good morning once again, Nigeria and viewers around the world. I am Ogochukwu Mobner. Bye for now.
When social media speaks, we'll listen and we'll bring you the extra. It's your one-stop show for trends, and the tea everyone sips. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get the extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on the issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk. Only on Global Television.
Up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle. Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
New Imo is on the rise. In the beating heart of Owerri, business never sleeps. From sunrise to sundown, the wheels keep turning. And behind the scenes, vision meets action. Governor Hope Uzodinma's leadership has left the pages of manifestos to become real actions and achievements. Transformations that piece by piece feels like a miracle. But progress needs peace to thrive, and in Imo, we are not leaving it to chance. From land to sky to river deep, guardians are always watching, protecting dreams and opportunities. If you go to the quiet shore of Orashi Power, you will see the awakening of a hydropower roaring to electrify and energize a blossoming economy. The change is visible. The heartland of the East is under construction as new roads are threading together once forgotten places. Industry is humming again and communities are alive. At the center of it all, a digital revolution is rising. A new ministry with a new mission. Not just cables and codes, but capacity. 500,000 young minds trained each year to build a digital future. And as Orashi Power goes up, so does Imo, lifting with it the hopes of a hard-working people. A new Imo is on the rise.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
we delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning, Monday to Friday at 7 a.m., Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
It is realistically impossible to talk about the economy and driving growth in that all critical sector and not bring the informal sector into the mix. In the case of Nigeria, for example, it's a bit tricky, and what we have seen over time is government after government coming up with a range of policies to drive growth in that regard, whether it has to do with taxation or even ensuring that those who are unbanked or underserved within the banking space also have some sort of a piece of the action, as they say. But in the case of Nigeria in particular, I mean, for an economy that is targeting $1 trillion size by 2030, which is just a few years away from here, how much more can we drag the informal sector into the net and ensure that we governize better going forward? I want to have this conversation with a business analyst who is also an entrepreneur, Macpherson Ebuka Okoye. It's a pleasure to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Great. I was going to begin by saying maybe you leave us with a $1 million seed. I'm not going to be in a hurry to do that. But let's start with Nigeria, right? As it stands today, we have so much, I mean, it's quite a broad space when you talk about the informal sector. And the interesting thing is when we talk about it, for the most part, it's as if it's just the conversation. But how do we even identify the elements that make up the informal sector in the first instance?
Okay, thank you very much. In the informal sector and the economic growth of Nigeria, you know, it boosts about 50% of the economy's GDP. So it helps to boost the 50% of.
But my question really is, how do you identify the informal sector, for example? Because if you say there's an informal sector, it means there's a formal sector. What are the characteristics of the informal sector?
Well, the characteristics of the informal sector is, for example, when it comes to the economic aspect. Let me put it that way: the economic aspect, in the sense that it helps the low, let me put it that way.
Okay.
It helps the low business people. It gives them chance, it gives them space, gives them opportunity.
Right.
To actually work. Because, for example, now it's not every other person in Nigeria that actually has access to the higher sector.
Right.
To the higher formal sector.
So you play at the bottom.
Yes, you just play at the bottom. You get, and this actually gives employment to 90% of people.
90%?
Yes, to 90% of people, of citizens in the country, which cannot get access to the higher sector.
Interesting.
For example, and again, secondly, let me come to the demographic aspect of it. People under 34 years of age, are the ones running this part of this demographic part.
Right.
Mostly, especially women. 37% of women in Nigeria, they own this aspect. And with that, from this side of my view, they can be able to generate employment for other people. It's not everybody that went to school. There's not everybody that went
and not everybody that went to school will find a white-collar job.
We still find a white-collar job.
Right.
You get, so from this aspect now, people can actually be able to work and make needs for themselves, even if it's not as much as they expect, but at least for the meantime, before hoping for something much bigger.
Interesting. Before Jumai jumps right in, let me also ask about issues that have to do with the challenges in the informal sector. Most times we hear government talk about informal sector. We want to bring people in the informal sector into the formal nets. But incidentally, government wants to have that conversation when it has to do with tax and all of that. And when we talk about the unbanked or those who are underserved, for the most part, they are also from the informal sector. Yes. And then you're asking yourself, how much work are we not doing or should we be doing to ensure that we continue to bring these players at the lowest rung of the ladder, so to speak, into the informal sector? So talk to us about, into the formal sector. help us understand what the challenges are in terms of bringing them into the formal net.
Okay. For example, there are financial exclusions. When I mean financial exclusions, like having access to loans.
And that's very important.
It's very important. For example, if someone that does a small scale business will go to the bank to maybe to get a loan offer, and he might at the end of the day he might get rejected. He might get rejected.
Why? Because he's not qualified?
Because in some cases they will say he's not qualified, or maybe they say the collateral.
Right.
Maybe the collateral doesn't meet up.
Okay.
The collateral doesn't meet up, and then the percentage. When you collect a loan, there's a certain percentage you have to pay back after we must have completed your loan. This also affects them. It's one of the challenges. Secondly, there's something they call pension gaps. In as much as they introduced a 2019 micro pension, but most of these small-scale businesses, they find it difficult.
They are not captured.
They are not captured, so they find it difficult to even go and apply for pension and start getting a pension scheme to actually save for the nearest future. So which is very important. People don't know, but this pension thing is very important because at the end of the, maybe after 30 years or 50 years of you working, you have nothing to rely on at the end of the day. And it affects most people when they age. So that too is very important. Then when it comes to taxation, people collect, when it comes to taxation, they pay tax based on levies. And most times it's forceful.
Right.
They pay tax based on levies. Most times it's forceful in the sense that, okay, for example, someone opens a business and places a logo in front of his shop.
Right.
Most of these AMAC people, they come and most of the AMAC
I'm just going to, sorry, Mark, first, I have to bump in for a second.
Yes.
We're taking a break now, everyone. This conversation will return shortly. Yeah, Mark Fuston, you were making a point a while ago.
Yes, I was talking about the taxation.
Taxation, right.
Yeah, based on forceful levy. Forceful levy. Even when it comes to even the local government, they go and impose forceful taxes on these people that don't even have much.
Right.
They'll force them to pay security fee, AMAC fee, agency fee, all of those things. And it doesn't help to boost the small-scale business. So that also affects them. Then one thing again is low productivity.
Low productivity.
Yes, in the sense that low productivity, there is no much equipment, no much money. Now, like this now will have to fall back to the small scale business trying to get a loan, but they won't be able to get a loan. That's when it now falls back to this low productivity. They will be able to be productive in a 100% aspect in the way that they want to be. They can't be productive because they don't have these amenities to be able to support them. So these are the few challenges that they actually have.
Now, still talking about tax now, how might tax reforms impact traders, artisans, low entrepreneurs?
Well, the tax reform, in the sense that if, for example, maybe at the end of the year, someone, you go through your account, through your statements, your bank statements, and you don't get up to, if you don't get up to ₦1 million a turnover for the year, you won't be taxed. right, you won't be taxed. But if you have over $1 million turnover for the year, you'll be taxed at 25%.
25%?
Yes, you'll be taxed over 25%.
That's substantial.
Yes. But if for a registered business, for a registered company, a limited liability company, maybe they do most of federal government contracts and other things, in as much as the 7.5% federal government deducts from the VAT whenever they pay them their money.
At source. They do that at source.
Deducted at source. Excluding that, but if you have over 50 million naira turnover, you've still been indebted to that.
Okay, 25% still.
Yes.
You see, I think it's a good thing that Juma asked that question, because the new tax laws are a bit confusing.
Yes, very controversial.
I'm sure that's why even business people need experts to help them understand how the new law works. But I want us to talk about the gig economy as we know it right now, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Does the gig economy fall into the brackets of this informal sector? Because one time there was a talk about how that if you sell products, whatever that means, online, whether on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, on YouTube, government will tax you. If you're here, for example, you're doing a remote job in Asia, in Europe, or in the Middle East, or somewhere outside of Nigeria, government will tax you. Are all of these guys part of the informal ecosystem?
They are not. They are not part of the informal sector. They are not.
I'm asking that because the gig economy is becoming quite popular across the world. For example, you are a graphics designer in Nigeria, yes. You're a video editor, you're doing stuff, I mean, those who are in tech, basically, they're doing big things in Nigeria for companies that are far away, far off our continent and things like that. How do they benefit from policy reforms when it comes to the informal sector?
Well, when it comes to the informal sector, the only thing that they benefit from, maybe if there's a payment that's meant to be made after they must have done their work.
Right.
Most of these people, they present their personal accounts.
For such payments?
For payments. They don't present a company account.
Right. So government may not be able to track?
Yeah, government may not be able to track where the payment is coming from. But I always advise people, if you have a company or you have something you are doing, try to get a company account.
Right. Formalize your business.
Formalize your business. Try to get a company account because it's going to give you a boost to do other businesses.
Right.
For example, I come and meet you, I said I want you to help me and do a job. I'll ask for your company. If you present me your CAC, if it's a limited liability, it's fine. If it's a business name, it's fine. I wouldn't want to, if you present your personal account for payment.
You'll be skeptical.
Yes, I'll take you as an unserious person. I'll take you as like you're a fraud. But if you present a company account, okay, I'll know that yes.
With the right documentation.
With the right documentations, I can go to the bank and verify, is this account active with this bank? Yes, this account is active. So that's why I always advise people, if you want to do a business, be it within Nigeria or outside, always make sure you have a company account because this will also help you.
Right.
It will also help you in case of fraud. Because most people want to make payments. They'll make payments of way above what you actually ask them to pay you, and at the end of the day,
with a criminal intention.
Yes, with the wrong intention, they will later call back and okay, please, can you make a refund? I overpaid. Can you make a refund? And when EFCC or maybe the bank gets to see that such payment, if it's in your personal account,
they flag it.
They'll flag it. But if it's in a company account that this money has been paid to, and you see that you've been overpaid. Definitely, you have a SCUM certificate.
Right.
You have a SCUM
from the EFCC.
From EFCC, you can just write a report. So amount was paid into my account. I don't have any idea where this money came from. The only business I have with this person, he's meant to pay me so amount, but he overpaid me. Please look into this. From that, if you write the letter and go and submit, you are safe. No EFCC official will come anywhere and want to hold you and say you committed a crime. So that's why it's very important for people to actually have a company account.
Now, let's talk about digitalization now. What role does it play when it comes to integrating the informal sector into the formal
Please
economy?
Come again.
The role of digitalization,
yes.
Now that balance of the role that it plays in integrating it into the formal sector.
Well, it still falls back to the same, one of the rules is still the same pension thing. If they can actually give way, if they can give means to the small scale business to actually be able to file for their PENCOM, to get everybody's details, for the pension is going to help in a very big way. People neglect that aspect.
Right.
People neglect that aspect.
In the area of documentation.
In the area of documentations, whereby they have to go to any of the insurance agencies to document their business. They'll get an RSA pin, get a PR code, get everybody's details. I believe every person in Nigeria that is over 18 has NIN.
Yes, true. But most people are not, when it comes to digitalization, most people are skeptical about it. But
they think it's too sophisticated.
Exactly, and they feel sometimes a waste of time when you have to go through all of these measures. They're not encouraged when you look at it critically.
Well, you have to make people to feel encouraged because it's very important. Because there will be a time when you need that ID, that's an NIN, and then at the end of the day you'll be running up and down trying to get this, at the end of the day you now lose the opportunity. So that thing is very important. Government should try and create avenues to that awareness to encourage every small scale business, every staff that is under them, under the company, to register for a pension scheme to help them save for the nearest future.
When we talk about policy, because that's really the fulcrum of our discussion now, right? The core essence of it. When you talk about policy, of course, policy is driven by government.
Yes.
You have Ministry of Trade, Industry and Investment, you have Ministry of Finance, and then you have agencies like SMEDAN, for example, you have Bank of Industry, quite a number of those entities, public entities, focusing on businesses, trying to drive businesses, because these are part of the entire economy that we're talking about. But I want to talk about the rural areas. There's a lot of business, there's a lot of commercial activity happening in rural areas. In villages, let's be very clear.
Yes.
But most times we make it look like the only place you have business activity is in the city. Go to villages now, you see people doing all kinds of businesses. I mean legitimate businesses, all right? Yes. But then there's the challenge of how do we also reach them and be able to bring them into the stream, as it were, so that they don't feel cut off. Because there seems to be this dichotomy of one guy doing business in the city, the other guy doing business in the village. But how do we ensure that the net is broadened enough to also bring these people in?
Well, in my own opinion, I think the federal government should create an avenue through the local government. They should create an avenue, maybe create an agency or something that can actually checkmate all of these people in the rural areas, that can actually help them, to train them on what to do, to make sure that they are part of what is happening.
All right. I'm taking a break quickly, Ebuka. All right, everyone, stay with us. We're back shortly. All right, so my question, we're talking about basically the villages and people who do business. I mean, gone are those days where the essential business happening in the village was cassava and stuff. But these days, people are becoming more innovative.
Yes.
They are broadening out in terms of channels, business options, and things like that. How do we ensure they also feel policy impact from one government to another?
Yes, the government should try to reach out to them, to create an agency that can actually reach out to these people in the rural, to educate them on what to do. To educate them and make them to know that they are also part of this sector. You understand? Make them to know that, okay, this is what you have and what you have to do to make sure that you are part of this, because you can't, and they don't even know that they have the technical know-how. They don't have the means, they don't even have the source. Even if they want to come in, but they don't have the avenue, they don't have the source, they don't know what to do.
Right.
So I feel the federal government should try and, create an avenue to reach out to all those people in the rural area, all those business people in the rural area.
Right, and that brings me to the issue of funding.
Yes,
there are young people,
Yes.
like you also said, most of these businesses within the informal sector are owned and run by women, which is a good thing, really. I mean, inclusion, it's important today, it's important tomorrow.
Yes.
But funding is always a challenge, especially at that startup phase. And then as you move further, you want to consolidate, you want to expand operations and all of that. And then the bottlenecks, the neck-breaking requirements for securing loans. I mean, you are familiar with that process.
Yes.
What should you be doing to address that as well? Access to funding.
Well, there should be a way, there should be a means to make this loan thing to be very easy for them to obtain. The criteria should cut off.
Who should do that? The central bank? Because basically it's the commercial banks that give out loans.
Yeah, they give
out. Of course, they are
loans.
regulated by the central bank. Do we need new policies to also push that frontier?
If there can be a new policy to actually make this work, it's really going to help if there can actually be a new policy to actually persuade the bank for some certain people that can't meet up to some of these policies that they put in place. You get, so if there can be a policy that can actually, the government can work towards it, to collaborate with the banking sector to make it very easy for people in the rural area to actually obtain, not just people in the rural area, there are some people even in the cities that they have ideas, they have plans to actually execute and carry on their business, but they don't have the loan, the money,
to do that.
To do that, even when they go to the bank, they want to obtain a loan, and the criteria and the collateral and everything is going to be so big for them to actually work with. So if there's a way, if there's a policy that can be actually created,
to do that.
and it's to also be checkmate.
Right.
Checkmate, yes.
It has to be supervised, monitored.
Yes, monitored. Because some people, truth be told, some people they are bad. You understand? Once they obtain this, they use the money, they misuse it,
and they abscond.
Yeah, they will just they'll just move away with it, which discourages other people from.
Yes,
discourages the bank from
it
helping
bungles the chances of other people being able to have access to loans as well.
Yes.
So I asked you the penultimate question because as of last year, 2025, for example, commercial activity, within the informal sector, in urban areas in Nigeria was 88%. Conversely, it was 97.3% in rural areas, which obviously shows that significantly there's much more commercial activity in rural areas than you have in urban areas. But that brings me to our education system, again, in relation to this informal sector.
Okay.
I've heard right from when I was a much younger boy that for the most part our schools do not teach business the way it should be done, like the street kind of business, where you are determined on getting results and you have a strategy, a roadmap to get there and things like that. Should we take a second look at our curriculum in Nigeria, again, by way of policy, to say, let's rework our curriculum at the secondary and university levels to be sure that it aligns with the realities of today? Because if you have a degree in business administration, even at the first class level, it's not a guarantee that you can do business in Nigeria. So how do we ensure that policy framework is connected one way or another to the realities on the ground?
Well, it's if there can actually be a policy that can actually if you can revisit the education system, to actually introduce a course that can actually educate people on how to run a business, not just the theoretical aspect, even the practical aspect of it. The practical aspect of it, not just only in the classroom, reading, doing this, but to go outside and practice it, even while they are still learning, is really going to help. Because most people, they just study business, and even in secondary school, they don't even do anything that has to do with business. They just do some primary education and that's it, but they don't actually study things that has to do with business in the secondary education aspect. So I feel that there should be a course that should be introduced into the secondary aspect that talks about business, how it's meant to be run, even in the rural area, even in the urban area. this is going to help and enlighten the minds of students.
I think you're the best person to have this conversation with. I mean, this is my last question just before we wrap up. The Igbo apprenticeship system.
Yes.
I've heard many people, including a very prominent Nigerian professor in the US, who says that we can systemize it beyond what it currently is, and then be able to drive it by way of some policy, if you like, framework or something. Again, it's very informal as it stands today.
Yes,
one young boy
informal.
decides to say, okay, well, I'm done with secondary school, or I'm even done with primary school. I want to pivot into a business. Goes to spend some 5-6 years with an oga somewhere in Nigeria, and then after that period cycles out, he's settled, as they say. He starts his own business. It has worked for decades. People say for centuries. How do we also formalize that in such a way that it becomes not just thematic, but systematic and properly regulated?
If a young boy should go and work for someone as an apprentice for the period of 5 years, 7 years, and then at the end of the day he gets paid a certain amount of money and begins his own business. And let me remind you, in some cases, some bosses are very they don't have good mind. They don't even actually get to pay them.
They can be cruel.
Yeah, they can be cruel. They don't get to pay what they actually agreed on.
Right.
You get, and this discourages other people. So, but if there's a way they can actually systemize this and bring it into the formal sector, create a policy, create a policy for this. When it comes to apprentice, how do we even put it? Come to apprentice stuff, and you working for someone, and the person has a staff. He's going to learn. He or she is going to work under you for a certain period of it. There should be a fixed amount to be paid in different sectors. Maybe when it comes to the mechanical aspect, when it comes to the import and export aspect, when it comes to maybe clothing, all of these sectors, they should have a fixed amount to be paid. If you want to work for the period of 3 years, it will be stated, okay, you are going to be settled for the sum of 5 million for the period of 2 to 3 years. From the period of 3 to 5 years, the money keeps on increasing. And they should also create an avenue. They should create an avenue to make sure that nobody gets cheated. The employer and the employee will have an agreement.
All parties get what they deserve.
Yes, all parties get what they deserve. So once a policy like this is being created, it's going to promote, it's going to boost up the GDP of the country.
Right. I can't agree less. So I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Macpherson Ebuka Okoye, entrepreneur.
And a contractor as well.
Yeah, well, you're a businessman.
Yes.
We appreciate your insights on the program.
Thank you very much.
Right. So we're taking a break now, everyone. The rest of the program continues shortly, at which time we'll be looking at the security situation in Nigeria and the U.S. interference in it. Do stay with us. Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning.
For the latest issues,
Always on point.
watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
New Imo is on the rise. In the beating heart of Owerri, business never sleeps. From sunrise to sundown, the wheels keep turning. And behind the scenes, vision meets action. Governor Hope Uzodinma's leadership has left the pages of manifestos to become real actions and achievements. Transformations that piece by piece feels like a miracle. But progress needs peace to thrive. And in Imo, we are not leaving it to chance. From land to sky to river deep, guardians are always watching, protecting dreams and opportunities. If you go to the quiet shore of Orashi Power, you will see the awakening of a hydropower roaring to electrify and energize a blossoming economy. The change is visible. The heartland of the East is under construction as new roads are threading together once forgotten places. Industry is humming again and communities are alive. At the center of it all, a digital revolution is rising. A new ministry with a new mission. Not just cables and codes, but capacity. 500,000 young minds trained each year to build a digital future. And as Orashi Power goes up, so does Imo, lifting with it the hopes of a hard-working people. A new Imo is on the rise.
All right, now let's turn our attention to issues of insecurity in Nigeria as our guest is prepping to join us virtually from here in Abuja. Nigeria, for example, in recent times has had to be on the defensive regarding the allegation that there's genocide, Christian genocide that is, in this country. We're seeing the presidency come out to counter that claim. We're seeing even the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, also engage the media locally and internationally on this front. But just this week, we are hearing that the U.S. has now, the Congress in the U.S. has now submitted its report to President Trump based on its findings regarding this situation. And the federal government is saying that this development itself, this report, is what it now calls a catalyst for broader cooperation, if you like, collaboration with the United States government. What is the context in that regard? And the question is, what more should we do to better deal with insecurity on our soil? Because if we hadn't been dealing with this level of security challenge, the U.S. probably would have basis to intervene. And that intervention in itself, which came to a head in some manner in 2025, Christmas Day precisely, of course, the attack in Sokoto State has now redefined the entire landscape in terms of Nigeria's relations with the United States, with many saying that, yes, the U.S. may be fronting with the proposal to help Nigeria, to assist Nigeria with fighting off insecurity, Boko Haram, ISWAP, or even issues around banditry. But what they believe the U.S. is doing is to actually use that as a conduit to gain unauthorized or unwarranted access to Nigeria's rich mineral resources. Juma, you and I have been here quite a number of times.
Yes, we have.
All of these issues regarding insecurity, especially the U.S. intervention. But as it stands today, it appears there's a new layer with the U.S. now saying that, the Congress submitted its report to President Trump, and Nigerian government says, well, It's a welcome development. It will help us better relate with the United States.
Yes, and of course, like we all know, there's a really bigger notion surrounding it. For everyone that says at the beginning when this whole intervention, or will I say this whole interference happened, we said it was a blessing in disguise. But now it's taking a different toll, a different dimension. They're now the escalation when it comes to kidnapping, when it comes to adoption, when it comes to these issues of quote and unquote the Christian genocide that is ongoing. But for us, for most people, they want to see what this brings, or if there's more to it when it comes to the U.S. eyeing our rich mineral resources. Well, individuals that actually say that. But in all, we want to see what this brings, and we want to see how well we can actually nip this particular menace in our society, which is kidnapping, banditry, and of course abduction and killing that is on the rise in Nigeria. It's a major security challenge in Nigeria, and of course a lot of individuals. Everyone is talking about it. It's something that we've been trying as much as possible to nip in the bud by any way possible. But I hope our guests will throw in more light when it comes to this issue at hand.
Right. Of course, our guests will have to help us understand what exactly we're dealing with at this time. Experts say there's nothing wrong if the U.S. wants to help Nigeria. There's nothing wrong if the U.S. reaches out to say, look, we can support you. Intel, gathering, training, manpower, campaign. Of course, you can also tell us specifically the areas in which you want us to step in, all right? And then we can have a handshake, sort of. But then it will appear it's at a point had become a master-slave kind of relationship.
Yes, it is.
Which many Nigerians say they are not comfortable with.
No,
and
we're
the
not.
government must be able to stand firm.
Speak up.
To speak up and resist. And then we're understanding that so far, as part of this broader, if you like, collaboration that the Nigerian government is referring to, the U.S. is saying that Sharia law must be repealed. The U.S. is saying that Nigerian government must do more to create cohesion amongst the people. The U.S. is saying that Nigerian government must support those communities that have been devastated by these attacks, must also support internally displaced people such that over time they can be reintegrated into society. I mean, quite a number of things that the U.S. has listed in that report. So it will appear, if you ask me, Joanne, with all of this we have in front of us, that it has just begun in terms of how we engage with the United States.
Yes, very
I didn't mention, the U.S. has also said that Nigeria must cut ties with China regarding military cooperation and what of Chinese influence in the country.
You know the Chinese, they're here when it comes to the mining aspect of Nigeria and what they do. Of course, we read there was that report.
Even economic development.
Economic development and all of that encompassed. But like I said, you mentioned it's a master and slave. They're the ones calling the shots and we have to adhere to. But I'm glad most of our leaders are saying, hey, let there be a balance when it comes to all of this. It's I scratch your back and you scratch mine. For whatever you've said, we will give you that necessary support. But there are some things that you're mentioning that does not actually favor us in some sort of way, but hopefully the needful is done. But at the same time, we shouldn't sell our birthright because we need help. And of course, the intervention has really, the issues of killings has actually skyrocketed in Nigeria when you look at some northern parts and in parts of the country. It's just unfortunate, but let's just see how we bring this to a balance. For as much as the help is needed, but at the same time, a balance needs to be created.
We'll have to balance this out, no doubt about that. It also means that Nigeria must now be jolted as a country to take a second look at how we have been fighting this war as it is, because elections are around the corner, and you realize that we had a similar situation in 2015, Jumai.
Yes, we did.
Where we had to move election, if I remember clearly, by about 6 weeks. That was a little over a decade ago.
Yes.
Today we're dealing with perhaps much more complicated magnitude of insecurity. So we hope going into the election, it doesn't become a clog in the wheel of progress in such a way that we're now compelled by criminal elements, all right? Not another country, criminal elements on our soil. To have no other choice than to move elections by a couple of weeks. That shouldn't happen. Our elections should not be disrupted by insecurity.
At all.
Especially such as we have right now. But that also brings up the issue of China and Russia. I've heard citizens, I've heard experts in the area of security, especially as it has to do with it on a global scale, saying that, look, it's high time Nigeria moved away from the U.S. and looked into, options like Turkey, like China, like Russia. In fact, they even say, if anything, Nigeria should should double down, all right, on its relations with China and Russia. But like you said, China has a strong foothold in Nigeria.
Yes, of course, the mining.
Issue of mining.
Yes.
Look at even construction.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
They do.
Look at traffic lights across Abuja.
Exactly.
And then, of course, the railway, for example. The Chinese has several billions of dollars in Nigeria's railway system.
Yes, they
if you
do.
remember, during the time of former President Muhammadu Buhari, when ministers were being screened, ministers nominees were being screened. We had issues then with former governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Chibike
Yes, we did.
who later would become Minister of Transportation, because he was vehemently supporting loans from China to help drive railway projects, which many persons, including from his home state at that time, had resisted by way of petitions to the National Assembly. While all of that may be history now, it doesn't take away from the fact that China is strongly planted, so to speak, on our soil.
Yes.
So for many people, that's enough basis already for us to say, let's do more in the area of security, let's cooperate on that front, and then let's also turn to Russia. But the fear for many people is the fact that if you turn to Russia and China, it will become more political instead of being focused on insecurity. Because China and US, Russia and US, these guys don't see eyeball to eyeball.
Yes, they do
so
not.
Nigeria will be left in the middle. And that's why, on the final note, there are those who are afraid that if Nigeria does not tread carefully, does not become strategic in this regard, it may just become a pawn in the whole
Very true. I completely agree with you, Uyi. And that's the fear of most Nigerians, being a pawn in all of this feud between Russia, China, and of course the United States of America. You know, we had a guest 2 weeks ago, or was it 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, and he said something. And he said Nigerians have to stand firm when it comes to decision making. This has to do with us now. It's our mineral resources. It's us as Nigerian, as a nation. We have to stand firm. Let there be a round table agreement. Let there be a counter offer. Hey, this is it. This is what we want. You're coming to our country. Okay, you're going to help. If you are coming in to help us, we should have a dialogue when it comes to issues that you want me to you want me to put at stake, or if it's my mineral resources you want me to put at stake, and all of that. We must come firm and have a voice. He mentioned something about the Senate President Akpabio when he made a statement with a congressman, and he said, no, I didn't say that. He said, you should come out and be bold and say, I said it because it has to do with individuals in my country, and it has to do with our resources. It has to do with me as a Senate President. So it's very important that we must speak up. So we have to understand that we have a say. For as much as these interventions are coming in, we have a say. We have to do what is right and what is favorable to us, and not being a pawn in this whole charade.
Of course, we can't afford to be a pawn in this whole charade, because at the end of the day, Nigeria is the only country we have. And for those who are also citing examples of where the US had, well, some people call it invaded, you realize that it's not a good tale to tell, and you don't want Nigeria to make that list, quite frankly. But again, raises questions about our response. Are we responding from strength or from a place of weakness? That's very important, because how you respond in international dialogue, whether it's politics, diplomacy, or trade, is as important as the issue at hand, the issue at stake, all right?
And also fear, Uyi.
Yes,
I will respond when it comes.
So you must be firm.
Exactly.
And your message must be clear.
Must be clear and must be firm. And I think we need a lot to do when it comes to that aspect. Our leaders need to be firm, and they need to, it's very important. And that dialogue is really, really important. Being firm is the major one. I think it's number one, not from a place of fear and for the fact that we know that these are superpowers, and of course they can do and undo, but at the same time we have to be firm. Hey, it's Nigeria and it's us.
Right, so we'll firm up the conversation for you shortly, everyone. We're taking a break. When we return, it will be our guest joining us to help us create context and establish perspectives for this conversation. Do stay with us. Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning.
For the latest issues,
Always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global.
Dr. Yahuza Getso, a security and intelligence expert, now joins us virtually from Abuja. Dr. Getso, I'd like to say a big thank you to you for your patience. All right, we understand our guest is dealing with a bit of a network issue at this point in time, but as soon as he establishes connection, we'll also try to beat out, as it were, a few thoughts from him regarding this all-important issue at this point in time, because we're hearing now that the U.S. is improving efforts with regards to its base in Ghana, talking about the AFRICOM, that's the U.S. African Command Facility, which is Ghana, and they have one, again, closer to home between Nigeria and the Niger Republic. But that of Ghana appears to be what it's focusing on regarding whatever its interest is in Nigeria on the issue of this insecurity. And we do hope that all of this will turn out in the overall interest of Nigeria. So once our guest joins us, we'll find out from him what scale of concern we should be having right now regarding all of these issues, because whether you like it or not, this is a war Nigeria must win. However, the concern is, how are we going to win, and with whom are we going to win this war right now, especially given the number of incidences of well, kidnapping that we've seen lately. The one that's even more controversial now perhaps is Niger State, where the federal government is busy defending that it never paid some alleged 2 billion naira ransom for the release of students who had been kidnapped and now released in the part of the country. Maybe the ransom thing is also a factor in all of these, because the criminality has become commercialized in such a way that once someone is kidnapped, someone, I mean, off the top of your head, you're already feeling, well, they also ask for money.
Of course.
And true to type, that's how it usually ends. And the US is saying, it can't continue that way. Dr. Yahuza Getso, I'd like to say a big thank you to you for joining us on the program this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Wee and the team, and good morning, viewers. Thank you for having me.
It's great. So just before Jumai gets right into the show, I mean, ask you a couple of questions. Let's begin. First of all, there's a change in leadership. I mean, from the home front now in our police system in Nigeria. Former IGP Kayode Egbetekun has stepped aside. He has resigned, we understand. Now the president has tapped Olatunji Disu to act in, I mean, to be in acting capacity pending confirmation as it stands right now. When you look at that, given that electioneering is around the corner, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I want to commend Nigerians for exercising patience and tolerating the shortcomings and gaps from the security agencies and the government itself. Even though it hasn't been a kind of a supporting an instrumental support towards addressing the issue. Changing the IGP or any of head of the security agency will not change anything. What matters is changing the system itself. It's a system failure, because Tunji Disu or whosoever is also a child of the same feather. So as far as I'm concerned, it will not change anything. We will still wait and give him some couple of months, like 3 months. We will not be hasteful. We'll give him like 3 to 6 months to see if at all there is any meaningful impacts that will rebuild the trust and confidence, the lost trust and confidence of Nigerians, because Nigerians have lost total confidence on Nigeria's security architecture due to the fact that there are lots more issues that Dr. Yahuza Getso and the rest of his alike have been discussing, that we have the capacity and quality to address the issues, but the government intentionally refused to focus on addressing the issues, rather kind of deceiving Nigerians and repositioning or reviewing policies at a very wrong time. I believe that Nigeria and Nigerians will be patiently waiting to see some of the reforms that Mr. Tunji Disu will come up with before we quickly make any comments. But the reality is, changing the IGP is not what matters. It is the total overhaul of the Nigerian police force, as well as all the security agencies. I want to tell you, looking at what happens yesterday on Safi Gusau Road, or rather along Sokoto Road from Funtua, where bandits came out in the daylight time at 5 p.m. to have carted away passengers from two vehicles, a Sharon as well as a Red Gulf. It has clearly demonstrated and mentioned that we really have a big weakness that we need to fix, because there was no existence or presence of any of the usual checkpoints that used to be there. And between the place where the abduction was took place and the next unit of the military formation is just a trekking distance. So I wonder how these guys will continue to be allowed to always commit their offenses. We are being slaves in our own home, and our security agencies are not being held accountable. The military and the other security formations are not being held responsible and accountable for the weaknesses and for the complicit and compromises, as well as the negligence to duty. Nobody is being punished. Nobody is being held accountable and responsible. So for how long? And looking at all that, the fact that I have said yesterday, I have said day before yesterday, and I'm going to repeat myself, that those who are committing these atrocities, they are Zamfarans, they are Nigerians, they are citizens of Zamfara, citizens of Niger, citizens of Katsina, citizens of all the states where they are committing these atrocities. So I believe if government will sit up to its responsibility, because no responsible government will continue to allow people being killed like ants, 50,000 here, 50,000 here, 100 there, 30 there, 10 here. People are being kidnapped like chicken or ants. You know, it's quite sad. It is quite disheartening and disappointing. And the amount of negligence and the inability of government to take actions is quite sad. And I believe that it is now necessary, it is now time for us to call on all and sundry that Nigerians should come out and protect themselves. Let Nigerians do whatever they could in order to protect themselves from these cowards, from these cowards, from these criminals, because we cannot continue to allow ourselves to be killed anyhow. It is no longer going to be tolerated. I don't really believe that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration government is really serious and is really wanting or willing to bring an end of this menace, because these guys who are committing these criminalities, 99% of them are Nigerians. They are using Nigerian space to operate. They don't have the control of our airspace. Even if they have the control of some of the landmass, how can you tell me that they are overpowering? Their firepower is always higher than that of the military, than that of the DSS, than that of the civil defense, than that of the custom, the immigration, and all the security strata agencies that we have all over. And why is it happening? Why is the concentration more in northern Nigeria? And why is the concentration more in Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, Niger, and Kaduna? Why is it not happening in other places? And what efforts have government made in order to directly deal with those who are really responsible for this activity? We said we know who they are. We know where they are. What government is doing in order to trace where they are and deal with them accordingly. It is quite sad and unfortunate and quite disheartening. All the security challenges that are happening, look at the killings in Plateau, look at the killings in Bauchi, look at the killings, you know, it is like the guys are being allowed to expand the scope of their operatives. That is why I condemn the intention or some of the window opened by Katsina state government sometimes, the local governments and all the affected the state governments in initiating dialogue. Because the space that was created have been an enabler for these criminals to have possessed and obtain more dangerous and more sophisticated arms and ammunition that they have not been able to procure in the last 10 years. Within the couple of 3 months, they were able to process and procure more arms and armaments, much more than that they have been able to procure in the last 10 years or thereby. So I don't believe we are serious. I don't believe we are committed. I don't believe we really want to deal with the situation because we are leaving the nail rather hitting the wood. So when shall we hit the nail at the right place on its right head?
Towards redeployments now. Now, how has the redeployment of police officers from VIPs protection impacted Nigerians' fight against kidnapping, or will I say security?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the redeployment of police from the VIP to the mainstream of the operations have not really yielded any positive impact on Nigerians. Because if really it has yielded, we wouldn't see the reoccurrence and more emergence of more attacks, more kidnappings, more bandit attacks, more communal clashes, and so on and so forth, and the more promotion of corruption and the rest of other things. So as far as I'm concerned, yes, I commend the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration for making that pronouncement and for passing that instruction. But I believe there are still more police officers, men and that are still working as a VIP in many places that they are not supposed to be working. So probably that may be inability of former IGP Abetokun to follow the instruction of the Mr. President in that regard, and many other things is maybe part of the reasons why he has been sacked. I believe if at all those who have been redeployed from the VIP were utilized effectively for the efficiency and improvement in terms of security management, in terms of addressing the hardened criminals, in terms of dealing with the situation on ground, in terms of addressing the challenges of insecurity that we have bedeviling the nation, and in terms of directing and focusing and repositioning the police service in the country, and in terms of utilizing them in kind of reaching out to the hideouts. In fact, where is the hideout of any of the criminals? I don't see anything hideout. I don't see anything hideouts because the inhabitants and citizens of those political polling units, local governments are conducting their activities, interacting and staying together with those criminals because they have no option. They have no place to move, but because they have to accept the sanctions, the fines, and so on and so forth. So if at all there is any impact, we wouldn't have seen the number of the increase in the number of attacks, in the number of kidnaps, in the number of killings in Niger, in Zamfara, in Katsina, in Sokoto, in Kebbi, and its expansion to some part of Kano. It is quite sad and unfortunate.
You are a security expert now. Now, I want to ask, how has kidnapping for ransom crisis affected Nigeria's national security and public trust?
Well, it affected Nigeria's security and public trust in many ways. One, it has exposed that our security architecture is under compromise. It exposes that our security architecture or security activities has been have a lot of complicit. It exposes that we don't really have the capacity. It exposes, it has given criminals an enabling opportunity to have put Nigeria in a great shame. And also, number 5, it has also made the system, exposed the system, the failure in the system. It has also promoted corruption within the cycle of the security agencies. And it also made it a kind of being Nigerians to be vulnerable. And it also, number 7, it also have given an opportunity for violence all over the country, and it also kind of is destroying the trust and public trust and confidence is becoming something that is a link that is being missing. It also exposes our judiciary, our judicial system, especially social justice and so on and so forth. And it also have a serious implication on the future of trust and confidence between the public and the security agencies. And also it has exposed that our politicians are not sincere, are not honest, are not serious, are not committed, are not willing. And it also exposes the negligence and the sabotage. It also exposes the promotion of a kind of I can call it creating a space for criminals in order to kind of have some new financial way of making money, because it has become a lucrative business that is very, very difficult to handle, because I don't really see the sincerity and honesty in the side of government in dealing with the situation.
Let's move quickly to the issue of the U.S., Dr. Getso. As it stands today, the U.S., we understand, I mean, the Congress in the U.S. has submitted a security report on Nigeria to the White House, of course, to the U.S. president. And a lot of issues have been raised in that report. As disturbing as those issues should be to the everyday Nigerian, the government says, that's the Nigerian government, that the report is now a basis for Nigeria to better relate to the U.S. In fact, the Nigerian government says it is a catalyst for Nigerian for us to be able to relate to the U.S. on a broader front. So what are your thoughts in this regard?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, even though I have not gone through the report in detail, but I was able to scan through some little part of the report, and I believe U.S. government is doing its best in providing required support for Nigeria. But the question is Nigerian government really creating an enabling environment for that space, for that diplomatic relation, and for those issues that have been identified, for those outline points that have been highlighted, bold and italic and underlined, is Nigerian government and Nigerians, are we really ready and serious to focus on those issues? How have we been able to handle corruption? How have we been able to manage the issues that U.S. government has been talking about? Killings, armed proliferation, insecurity, disturbing situation, and how have the government been able to respond to challenges and criticism by Dr. Gizo and others in respect to that the government knows who are the criminals, the government knows where the criminals are, and these criminals are not really in any way have the capacity to say that there is no change in constitution that they are above the law. And why are they not being dealt with? why are we still having issues? Why are we still diving into the river of insecurity rather than coming out? So I believe the report from the US government is important, but the question is the leadership, is the system ready to allow to create an enabling environment for its operationalization, for the operationalizing or transmitting or using or adopting the report so that we can deal with the situation. More people are being killed, more arms are being proliferated, more corruption issues are being found, and the anti-graft agencies are becoming more of witch hunters or political tools in handling issues. You see, there are many people who have been found wanting, but they are roaming around, they are moving free as the president himself, while some of those who have been alleged to have issues of corruption and so on and so forth are being held because of the political differences. So I really believe the report is important and is timely, but the question is the relationship between Nigeria and the US government may likely going to be more sour than otherwise. I don't really see that we are going to have any positive change based on the report, since Nigerian government, those who are the helm of the affairs, are now taking some of the points and making some arguments, some unnecessary, irrelevant arguments.
Fine place to leave it. I would like to say a big thank you to you, Dr. Yahuza Getso, for helping us understand better what's happening regarding insecurity in Nigeria, particularly from the standpoint of U.S. intervention. We're grateful for your time with us on Global Morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And that's what we're leaving it on the program this morning, everyone. Just to say a big thank you to you once again for being part of it, and to remind you that the views of our guests across all of our programs, including here on Global Morning, are their opinions. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And I am Jumai Manson. Thank you all so much for being a part of the program. Have an amazing day ahead. Bye-bye.